Hello teacher trainees and welcome to another class on curriculum studies. Today we are going to learn about taxonomies of learning. At the end of this video, remember to click on the link in the description which has the revision questions for this topic. We have collected more than 60 application questions which will help you in your revision for the NEC exams. Before we begin, please take a second and click on the subscription button and click on the notification bell so that you can access all our lecture videos and quizzes. Let's begin our lesson. Taxonomies of learning are frameworks or systems that categorize different levels and types of learning. These taxonomies are designed to help educators and learners understand the complexity of learning and provide a structure for organizing and assessing learning outcomes. Some of the most commonly used taxonomies of learning include Bloom's taxonomy, Anderson and Krathwohl's taxonomy, Fink's taxonomy of significant learning, Mazzano and Kendall's new taxonomy, Solo taxonomy. These taxonomies can be useful in designing effective instruction, developing assessments, and evaluating learning outcomes. Evaluation of various taxonomies of learning. The various taxonomies of learning are useful in relation to curriculum development, as they can provide guidance on how to structure and assess learning outcomes. Here are some ways in which the taxonomies can be evaluated in relation to curriculum development. Bloom's taxonomy. Bloom's taxonomy is one of the most widely used taxonomies of learning and has been widely used in curriculum development. It provides a useful framework for designing instruction and assessments that target different levels of cognitive complexity. However, some critics have argued that the taxonomy is too focused on lower-order thinking skills and does not adequately capture the complexity of higher-order thinking. Anderson and Krathwohl's taxonomy. This taxonomy is a revision of Bloom's taxonomy and addresses some of the limitations of the original taxonomy. It includes two dimensions, cognitive processes and knowledge types, which provide a more comprehensive framework for designing instruction and assessments. However, it is a more complex taxonomy and may be more challenging to use in practice. Fink's taxonomy of significant learning. Fink's taxonomy is focused on identifying the types of learning that are most significant for students. It includes 6 types of learning outcomes, ranging from foundational knowledge to learning how to learn. This taxonomy can be useful in developing a curriculum that emphasizes the most important types of learning, but it may be less useful in designing instruction and assessments. Mazzano and Kendall's new taxonomy. This taxonomy includes 4 domains of learning outcomes, including cognitive, affective, psychomotor, and interpersonal. It provides a more comprehensive framework for designing instruction and assessments that target a range of different learning outcomes. However, like Anderson and Krathwohl's taxonomy, it is a more complex taxonomy and may be more challenging to use in practice. Solo taxonomy. The Solo taxonomy is focused on identifying levels of complexity in understanding, ranging from simple recall to extended abstract. This taxonomy can be useful in designing instruction and assessments that target different levels of complexity in understanding, but it may be less useful in addressing other types of learning outcomes. Overall, each of these taxonomies of learning has its strengths and weaknesses, and their usefulness will depend on the specific context of the curriculum being developed. It is important for curriculum developers to consider multiple taxonomies of learning and select the ones that best fit their needs. Let's evaluate the revised Bloom's taxonomy. The revised Bloom's taxonomy is an updated version of the original taxonomy developed by Benjamin Bloom in the 1950s. The revised version was developed by Lauren Anderson and David Krathwohl in 2001, and it reflects a more modern understanding of how people learn and the different types of knowledge and skills that are important for success. The revised Bloom's taxonomy includes 6 levels of cognitive complexity, organized into 3 categories: cognitive processes, knowledge dimensions, and the revised taxonomy's unique dimension of metacognition. The 6 levels of cognitive complexity are as follows. Number 1. Remembering. This level involves recalling previously learned information, such as facts, dates, or concepts. Number 2. Understanding. This level involves comprehending the meaning of the information being learned, such as interpreting a text or summarizing a lecture. Number 3. Applying. This level involves using knowledge or skills in a new context or situation, such as solving a problem or performing a task. Number 4. Analyzing. This level involves breaking down complex information into component parts and examining relationships between them, such as identifying cause and effect or drawing inferences. Number 5. Evaluating. This level involves making judgments or assessments based on criteria or standards, such as evaluating the quality of an argument or the effectiveness of a solution. Number 6. Creating. This level involves using knowledge and skills to generate new ideas, products, or solutions, such as designing a new product or writing a novel. In addition to the 6 levels of cognitive complexity, the revised Bloom's taxonomy includes 2 knowledge dimensions. Number 1. Factual knowledge. This dimension includes knowledge of basic facts and information, such as vocabulary or mathematical formulas. Number 2. Conceptual knowledge. This dimension includes knowledge of general principles and concepts, such as the laws of physics or the principles of economics. Finally, the revised Bloom's taxonomy includes a dimension of metacognition, which refers to the ability to monitor one's own learning and thinking processes. This dimension includes knowledge of how to learn, strategies for monitoring one's own progress, and the ability to reflect on one's own thinking and learning. Overall, the revised Bloom's taxonomy is a useful tool for educators and learners to better understand the levels of cognitive complexity and the types of knowledge and skills that are important for success. It provides a more comprehensive framework for designing instruction and assessments than the original Bloom's taxonomy, and it reflects a more modern understanding of how people learn. Let's review the learning outcomes using revised Bloom's taxonomy. Learning outcomes are specific statements of what students are expected to know and be able to do after completing a learning activity or course. Revised Bloom's taxonomy is a framework that categorizes different levels of cognitive complexity in learning outcomes. This taxonomy consists of 6 levels: remembering, understanding, applying, analyzing, evaluating, and creating. Remembering. Remembering is the lowest level and involves recalling information from memory. Examples of learning outcomes at this level include remembering key events and dates from a historical period or memorizing vocabulary words in a new language. Understanding. Understanding is the second level and focuses on comprehension and interpretation of information. Examples of learning outcomes at this level include explaining the main themes and ideas of a novel or film, interpreting a graph or chart to determine trends or patterns, and summarizing the main arguments of an academic article. Applying. Applying is the third level and involves using knowledge and skills in real-world contexts. Examples of learning outcomes at this level include solving a real-world problem using a specific problem-solving method, creating a website using HTML and CSS, and applying critical thinking skills to evaluate the credibility of a news article. Analyzing. Analyzing is the fourth level and focuses on breaking down complex information into its component parts and identifying relationships between them. Examples of learning outcomes at this level include analyzing a complex system by identifying relationships between its component parts, evaluating the impact of a historical event on different social groups, and analyzing the use of symbolism in a literary text. Evaluating. Evaluating is the fifth level and involves making judgments or assessments based on criteria or standards. Examples of learning outcomes at this level include critiquing an argument or solution based on criteria or standards, assessing the validity of scientific claims based on experimental evidence, and evaluating the effectiveness of a marketing campaign based on sales data. Creating. Creating is the highest level and involves generating new ideas, products, or solutions. Examples of learning outcomes at this level include designing a new product or service to meet a specific need, writing a screenplay or short story based on a given theme, and developing a business plan for a new venture. Next, let's understand the importance of learning taxonomies in creating learning objectives. Taxonomies are classification systems that are used to organize and categorize information or knowledge into a hierarchical structure. In education, taxonomies are used to create learning objectives, which are statements that describe what students should know or be able to do after completing a lesson or course. There are several reasons why learning taxonomies are important in creating effective learning objectives. Number 1. Provide a framework for organizing learning. Taxonomies provide a framework for organizing and categorizing learning objectives. They help teachers to identify the key concepts and skills that students need to learn and create a clear roadmap for instruction. Number 2. Ensure that learning objectives are measurable. Taxonomies ensure that learning objectives are measurable and specific. By using a taxonomy, teachers can create clear, concise, and measurable learning objectives that can be assessed and evaluated. Number 3. Encourage higher-order thinking. Taxonomies encourage higher-order thinking by providing a framework for developing learning objectives that go beyond basic recall and understanding. By incorporating Bloom's taxonomy or other similar frameworks, teachers can create learning objectives that promote analysis, evaluation, and synthesis of information. Number 4. Facilitate alignment with standards. Taxonomies facilitate alignment with educational standards, such as the Common Core State Standards or state-specific standards. By using a taxonomy to create learning objectives, teachers can ensure that they are aligning their instruction with the standards and preparing students for success on standardized tests. Number 5. Support differentiated instruction. Taxonomies support differentiated instruction by providing a framework for creating learning objectives that are appropriate for students at different levels of understanding. Teachers can use taxonomies to create learning objectives that challenge advanced students while providing support for struggling learners. Number 6. Facilitate communication and collaboration. Taxonomies also facilitate communication and collaboration among educators. By using a common taxonomy to create learning objectives, educators can ensure that they are all working towards the same goals and objectives. This promotes consistency and clarity in instruction and enables educators to work together to develop effective instructional strategies. Number 7. Promote student engagement. Taxonomies can also promote student engagement by creating learning objectives that are relevant and meaningful to students. By incorporating real-world examples and activities, teachers can create learning objectives that connect with students' interests and motivate them to learn. Number 8. Support formative assessment. Taxonomies can also support formative assessment by providing a framework for creating learning objectives that can be used to guide ongoing assessment and evaluation of student learning. By creating learning objectives that are aligned with the curriculum and standards, teachers can monitor student progress and provide timely feedback to support student learning. In conclusion, taxonomies are a powerful tool for creating effective learning objectives that promote student learning and achievement. By using a taxonomy to organize and categorize learning objectives, teachers can ensure that they are aligned with educational standards, promote higher-order thinking, support differentiated instruction, and facilitate communication and collaboration among educators. Overall, learning taxonomies are an essential component of effective instructional design and planning. And that marks the end of our lesson on taxonomies of learning. Please remember to click on the link in the description which has the revision questions for this topic. Also subscribe to this channel and like the video so that anytime we upload a new video YouTube will always notify you. Thanks and have a good day.